Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. We still have about a minute left until the actual time of the webinar, so please hold tight as we let more people in. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today for our Lunch and Learn, our show and tell session. Today, we are going to present Asgard Alliance and their labels, and I think it's a fantastic product. I've had the pleasure of seeing it multiple times, and I know you guys, it sparked some interest for some of you guys that have joined us. Just some housekeeping things. If you do have questions, put them in the Q&A or the chat. I'll be monitoring both. And this meeting is being recorded and will be put on our website for future reference needs. With that, Lucas has put together a great presentation for us today, and he's going to go through the whole Asgard labels within Acumatica and show you how it works, and go from there.
Yeah.
So, Lucas, it's all yours. Take it away.
Yes. Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Frank, for the opportunity.
I think you're muted. Let me unmute you if I can.
No, Frank, I can hear him.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear him, but I'm not sure. I think Frank is the one that is talking.
I can mute you, but I can't unmute you. Can you unmute yourself, Lucas?
Yeah, I am unmuted.
Anyone? Lucas, can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
I can hear you, Lucas.
Okay.
All right, perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Yeah, let's begin.
Okay. Perfect. Welcome, everyone. Like I said, thank you, Frank, for the opportunity. And I'll be presenting Asgard Labels. It is a labeling solution built into Acumatica. And yeah, feel free to write in the chat if you have any questions. I'll try to answer as much as I can. Okay, so yes, again, welcome to the Freedom and Power of Label Printing. Asgard Labels overview presented by myself. So just before I begin, a little bit about us. We're an Acumatica ADN partner. Essentially, we are an ISV located in Montreal, Quebec. We were founded in 2018. So yeah, because we are an ISV, our main, we are principally a development company. So we do a lot of development and customization services for VARs and clients such as yourself. So we do a lot of R&D for new solutions. And on our team, we have multiple Acumatica developer MVPs, and all our developers are fully certified with 2 to 6 badges each. So when it comes to software implementation, this is our expertise. When it comes to labeling as well, that is our expertise. So you are in the right hands when it comes to this labeling service. So yes, so why would you choose Asgard Labels? So The main factor is that it is a fulfilled by Acumatica application solution. So what this means is that Acumatica trusts us to handle all labeling requirements when it comes to printing labels inside of Acumatica. And a big reason why they trust us is because we're fully integrated within Acumatica itself. What this means is that there is no need for any third-party integrations or apps needed. Everything can be done within Acumatica. So that comes from the designing of the labels and the printing of the labels. So labels can be mapped on any screen in Acumatica or even generic inquiries for batch printing. And you can print labels within seconds from anywhere, right? From any printer that you connect to Acumatica, and you can use data directly from your system. So what this means is that it means that your data is always going to be up to date. It's going to be fast and reliable. There's not going to need to be any back and forth between data transfers when you're building your label. When you're printing it, you're going to be taking data directly from the system. So it's always going to be the most accurate data that you can use and the quickest way to do it. Yeah, so we've also fulfilled all non-labeling use cases. There hasn't been a scenario where we haven't been able to cover when it comes to label printing. So whether you want a 1D barcode or a 2D barcode onto your labels, we will be able to put that onto your label. You can print any industry-specific label in any size, right? So if you wanted to print on a huge piece of paper, so an 8.5 by 11-inch regular paper, we can add a giant barcode onto it, and you'll be able to kind of use it in your warehouses for shelving, for example. You can even add your 2D barcodes to Acumatica reports, so you can add it to your packing slips if you ever so wanted to do so. So if we look on the right, that's a little bit some of the barcodes that we can do. So whether you want to use a QR code, data matrix, PDF 417, GS1, a UPC barcode, we can add that onto your label. And when it comes to the printer connection, so there's really two ways you can do it. There's the Device Hub, which is the Acumatica app to connect your printers. But we also offer another service, which is Asgard Cloud Print, who is affiliated with PrintNode. And essentially what this is they function in the same way, similar ways where you both download an app onto your computer, a client onto your computer, and that'll connect your printers. Now, the reason why we offer both is that some people are used to the Device Hub, so they want to stick with that. But usually we kind of tend to lean towards that cloud print service because one, it is much more reliable and faster. So there hasn't been any crashes when we implement it. And also it automatically adds your printers. So you don't really have to do much aside from just download it onto your server or your computer, and all your printers are going to be added into Acumatica automatically. Yeah, so we are a flexible solution. So when it comes to printing labels with Acumatica data, if you want to add images to it, or you want to use attributes or user-defined fields onto your label, you will be able to. We also support printing languages such as ZPL. That is the one that works the best with our solution. If you have other types of printers, such as Epson or other company printers, there are workarounds, but really, as long as a printer supports ZPL, that'll be the most efficient way to use the solution. So what you can see on the right is a little bit of a sneak peek of some of the labels that we have created with the logos of companies. Yes, so we are constantly improving. So like I mentioned, we are able to print from a GI, so a generic inquiry within Acumatica. We can print on huge barcodes, and also we have the ability to print with colored labels. So if you want to add color onto your label, make it a little bit more dynamic, more distinguishable from other labels, you can add colors onto it, and we will be able to handle that.
Hey, Lucas, we got a question that popped in the chat.
Yep.
Do Datamax printers work natively with Asgard?
So we would probably have to check. I can definitely check if you send me kind of your printer model. But I believe it shouldn't be an issue. I've heard that kind of type of printer before, so that name sounds kind of before, so I think it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
Or else there's always like a workaround, right? So if your printer does not handle ZPL, we can always kind of create a PDF of that printer that you want to of that label you want to print, and we'll just send that PDF to the printer itself. So it may be a little bit longer in a sense. We're talking about a couple seconds of lag, but usually it shouldn't be an issue.
I'll send you a reminder, Lucas, on this question, and
Yeah.
we'll get that to you guys. Thank you.
Yes. So now I want you guys to think about the possibilities, right? So why would you use your labels? What would you use your labels for, right? So whether you want to move from one process to another or move your process of manufacturing into inventory. So maybe you want to print a label from the production move, right? Or let's say you're receiving a package from your vendor into the warehouse. So you want to print from the purchase receipt screen. Or if you're fulfilling a shipment, right? You would want to print a shipment. Or, if you just want to print a simple warehouse label, or, again, from a kit assembly, if you're assembling anything, or even just printing a standard old stock item label, right? So there are a myriad of possibilities when it comes to labeling your products and even just inventorying items in the warehouse, or when it comes to warehouse management, labeling is an important aspect of that part. Yes, so when it comes to print options, so there are different ways when it comes to approaching the way we print. So there is the one-click print all. So what this is that you can group multiple labels together. That way they're printed all at once, right? So whether you want to print 1, 10, hundreds, thousands of labels at once, with the click of a button, you'll be able to print your labels, and however many labels you want to print, right? And let's say you are, one of the labels that were printed kind of came out wrong, right? Maybe the barcode is not readable, or the ink kind of got everywhere. We have the ability to reprint the labels as well, right? So we have a print log where you can go through the whole list of labels that were printed, and then you just have to select whichever one you want to print. You click on that, and then you'll be able to reprint to the same printer or to a different printer, right? So whatever printer that's closest to you if you want. You also have the ability to auto print. So this is fairly neat because we are tied inside of Acumatica directly. Because we're built inside of Acumatica, we are able to use Acumatica's business events and workflows to automate the printing of the label. So what this means, for example, is let's say you are looking at a shipment, right? So when you confirm that shipment, that could trigger the printing of your labels. So this way you don't really have to go ahead and click on the label buttons that you want to print, right? Just the fact of confirming the shipment, the action of confirming a shipment will send your labels to be printed. Same thing for a production move, or when you're releasing a purchase receipt. And then when it comes to printer assignment, there are different ways to assign your printers. So if you want to limit a specific user, so to be able to print a certain label at a certain printer, so you can limit that user to only one specific printer, or you can have it be by a workstation or a user group, right? So let's say people that are in assembly and production are only allowed to print this particular label on this particular printer. So it would be like the one closest to them or the one they use the most, right? So there are different ways to kind of limit access to whoever can print a label.
Hey, Lucas, another question came in. Not sure if it was to this slide or the slide prior. Is this similar to C data? Which I guess I'm assuming character data.
Character data. I think that was about the ZPL. So essentially, if I understand correctly, so essentially ZPL is the Zebra company, the printer company. So Zebra programming language, right? So the foundation of Asgard labels was built on ZPL for the fact that Zebra has the majority of kind of that printer space in the industry. So a lot of times what we're doing in the background, really, when we're creating that label, we are sending raw ZPL command to your printer. CData is the current program we use not to print our label. Okay, so okay. It's a program you use to print your labels. Okay. Yeah, so well, I'm not exactly familiar with CData, but essentially, you'll see a little bit later. What we do is essentially it's just a click of a button when it comes to printing your labels. When it comes to the designing as well, there is a designer built in. And hopefully maybe that will answer your question. But yeah, to print your labels, it's just a click of a button. And we have a configuration screen where you can kind of build your labels inside of it. I think this is, yeah. So this is one last feature that I'll talk about is the context sensitive labels. So what this is, it's a conditional rule that you can add onto your label. So let's say you have 2 shipments, right? One going to Costco, one going to Walmart. And we know that these two particular retail companies are very picky with how their labels are designed when they're received, right? So let's say most of the times, like Walmart, for example, they're very picky and particular with how their label looks. If a certain barcode is, a little bit too much to the right or to the left or too high or too big, they could reject your box and send it back to you. Now, this could be thousands of dollars of a mistake when they send it back and you have to pay for it. So what this is what these conditional rules are is you can have a particular rule based on customer, vendor, warehouse location, whatever condition you want, you can have it set onto the label. That way you can display whether or not you can print that label. So let's say in the shipments, I have 2 shipments, one going to Costco, one going to Walmart. If I'm on my shipment for Costco, I'll see all the labels that I have that are available for me to print, right? So I'm on Costco, I can see, okay, this label, this label, this label, I'm allowed to print. So I can click on that button to be able to print that label. But if I'm on another record, let's say the Walmart shipment, all my Costco labels will be disabled. They will be hidden. So that way I cannot physically click on that label to print. So this way I'm really avoiding any mistakes when it comes to the printing of the labels. So this could be this could be a time saver, right? Or a money saver when it comes to printing the labels. That way you know that you're not making any mistakes when it comes to the printing. And I'll be showcasing that like soon. Let's go into Acumatica and I'll show you how the whole thing works when it comes to the printing. Okay, so here we have an Acumatica screen. Now let me refresh just to make sure. Yeah, so here we have the Acumatica screen. So this should look fairly familiar. There hasn't been much change to this screen, to the shipment screen. Aside from the fact that the main difference is that if you go into that toolbar action menu, you'll see the Asgard labels title. And under that title, there are a set of buttons that you can click from. These are all the labels that you have access to when it comes to printing. So here we're focusing on the AgriLink product label, which I have pinned to the toolbar by adding a star for ease of access. So really, if I know that I'm going to be using this label a lot, I'm printing a lot of this label, I can have it pinned. That way it's much easier for me to just print my label. But before we print my label, let's say I want to print a particular label on my shipment, right? I only want to print my food chip labels. So I have a shipment that has food chips and food hot dogs, but I only want to print my chips. So I have a checkbox here that says print label that allows me to dictate on which particular row of the shipment I want to print a label for. So here I can check the first box, and then I can dictate how many labels I want to print of this particular row. So I said 2. And then the quantity that's going to be displayed on that label is going to be 50. So once I have that kind of set up and I'm ready to print, all I have to do is just click on this button and the label will be sent to the printer. Yeah, so what I have here is a virtual printer. This is just to show you the output. So what my label would look like if I sent it to a physical printer. So here we look at the label that we have in front of us. So these are the 2 exact same labels, right? There is no difference between the 2. And if we look at the data, we can kind of see that we are pulling the serial number. We're pulling a quantity, so 50 matches the 50 that I wrote in here. The date code, we have the supplier part number. We added some images, some logos onto the label, and we also added a 2D barcode. So as you can see, we're kind of pulling data from a little bit of everywhere inside of Acumatica, and that's what's the power of it, right? As long as you have the data inside of Acumatica, anywhere, right? Whether it's anywhere, whether it's in the sales order or the stock item screen, as long as the data is inside your system, you will be able to use that data to place it onto the label itself, right? So yeah, so that's kind of the beauty of it. It's wherever the data is, you will be able to put onto your label. We can also print from the packages screen if you want. So if you want to print a label for each box and then the contents of each box, you can put that onto your label as well, right? So there are different scenarios, use cases that you can come up with that you could even present to us. And as long as the data is there, you will be able to use it onto your label. And the big reason why we're able to do that, it's because our designer is built into Acumatica. So this is where it brings us to the label model screen. So Asgard Labels has its own workspace. Now there are a myriad of screens on here. It might look a little bit intimidating, but a lot of them that are here are really here. That way it's a lot easier for you to design and work around building the label. Right. So whether it's the fonts, the barcodes, the formats, the rules that you want to place onto your label, all of these screens are kind of intertwined together. They're interconnected. That way, when you're building your label, it's much easier for you to design it. But really, the heart of the solution resides in this screen, this label model screen. It is where you're defining your template, you're mapping all your data, you're assigning your printers, you're putting up the rules, you're making even the automation, right? So on this screen, you have your standard ID and description. So just to give a name to your label. And then you have a model type, right? So you have the singular label itself, so the label type. You have group, so you can group multiple labels together, so multiple different labels. That way you have a button that says just print all, right? So let's say I have a label for my summary portion, and then one for the details, and one for the package. I can group all these labels together. That way I just have one button that will print all of these together. That way I don't have to click on individual buttons. I have this all shipment labels button. I just click on that and all my labels will be printed. And yeah, and then every label is tied to a screen. So we were dealing with a shipment label, so we mapped it to my shipment screen. This could be any other screen inside of Acumatica, right? It could be the purchase receipt. It could be the sales order, the stock items, really any screen inside of Acumatica. And then from that screen, you choose a view. So you base it off of a view. The view is essentially where you want to pull your data from. So in this case, we were looking at the details inside the shipment. So we're mapping it to the detail view. And then the label has a format. So whether it's a 4x4, 4x6, 3x2, or any other format that you may need for your labels, you simply just have to create it inside, again, the format screen that we have set up. You just define, however, the length, right? The width and the height in inches, centimeters, millimeters. And you can even set the DPI, right? So depending on the printer that you have, it may be a 200 DPI to 600 DPI. Or if you're with Epson, it could go even higher with the quality. And then kind of once you have that top portion set up, you go ahead and just define the template. So the way you want to think of it is every line that you write on the template, that will load in as a code inside the expression tab that is heavily linked to the template. So essentially, every aspect, every line that's written inside this template, a code will be generated. That way you can map all your data to it, right? So every code is a field onto the label. So here, for example, if we look at label customer part number, what I did here is I mapped this particular position. So where I want to see this particular word, so customer part number : So I said I want to have it at 6% in X and then 12% in Y. So this would be right here, right? So I set the position of where I wanted this field to be. Then I set my expression type to be fixed. What fixed is, it's something that is hard coded, something that'll never change. It's always going to be customer part number : right? So it's always going to be this word. And then when I want to have something that is pulled from the screen, when I want to have a specific value or data value placed onto the label, whether it's as a word or as a barcode, I choose my screen expression type, and then I just map whatever expression or data value I want onto the label. So here we have a tree selector that kind of allows you to see all the data values, the data fields that you can use and place onto the label itself, right? So in this case, we were looking for the lot serial number, so we just map that serial number onto it. Yeah, so Frank answered that question. So yes, when it comes to creating the labels, there are different ways, there are different options that are presented. I'll go over them a little bit later, but yeah, so Asgard offers a service, support service to design the labels for you guys. Your VAR also, so Mayor Group has some consultants, I believe, that have taken the training. So they are trained in creating the labels for you guys as well. And if some of you ever wanted to learn how to build the labels, we also offer a course to, train you guys and learn how to build a label. But usually that's maybe a little bit more down the line, maybe like a year after implementation, once you're comfortable with it, comfortable with the solution, then you can like learn how to build the labels. Yes. So yes. So let's say you chose the lot serial number, right, to map onto your label. And if you wanted to map a particular barcode, all you have to do is look at the barcode ID and simply choose from the selector whatever barcode you want to map onto your label. So we are able to print every barcode that your printer can print, right? So essentially all barcodes in the industry. So whether it's GS1, QR code, PDF 417, SCC 18, UPCA, Aztec, any barcode that you would want to place onto the label, you can add it onto, you can just simply choose from the selector whatever barcode you want to add, and that'll just put it onto the label itself. And the only reason you can see this barcode is because we are also working with a renderer, right? So let's say here in my quantity, I have 10,000, but I want to change this to just 50. So what the renderer does is that it allows you to see in real time how your changes will look, what your label would look like while you're building it. So it makes it a lot easier for you to design the label. That way you're just not putting out words or expressions onto there without blindly, right? You can actually see whatever changes you do onto the label with the renderer. Yeah, so the next tab is the printers tab. Let me see. Oh, there is a question. Can the printer function work with stock Acumatica report builder? So it could work. So we could map a button onto Acumatica's report designer. But really, the benefit of Asgard labels, it's having its own workspace. So kind of distancing away from Acumatica's report designer, because we've designed labels with the report designer before, and it's to do a small change to your label with Acumatica's report designer, it becomes a little bit of a hassle, right? So having kind of your own workspace here where everything is built and interconnected together, it makes it a lot easier to kind of design the labels. Okay, yeah. So then we have the printers tab, right? So the printers tab is where you want to kind of assign your printers to your labels and then your users to your printers. So here what we have is a selector. So most of the things here work with selectors, right? So here you can select whatever printer you want to use for this label. So whoever wants to print this label, they can print and select the printer they want to use. So let's say I want to map this Bluetooth printer to my label. And in this case, I want to assign Andrews to this printer. So what this means is that only Andrews is allowed to print this label on this particular printer. So this way I'm limiting who has access to what, and I can kind of see who in a list here, who can print where, right? This also works with a work group. So like I said, some people that are in assembly in production, right? Or people that are in that are consultants or construction crew, you can define a work group via the company tree in Acumatica, map it onto here, and that would mean that everyone who belongs to this work group will be allowed to print a label on this printer. So usually a reason why you would do that is, let's say people are in the east end of the warehouse, they don't really have reason to print on the west end, right? So they just stick to the east, people that are in the east, or workstation A, and they just print to that one because it's closest to them and it's the one they work with the most, right? So you can really limit who has access to which type of printer. And like I said, it also works with workstation. So workstation 3 would be able to print the label. And now the last tab I'll really kind of go over is the setup tab. So what this setup tab is, it's where you want to apply the rule. So here I have a rule setup called is AgriLink. So what this means is that it's going to be looking at my customer, AgriLink food, and it says, if my customer is AgriLink food, show me the button and allow me to print my label. So I can click on it, I can print my label easily. Well, let's say I go to another record, and now my customer is Alta Ace. You can already see that the button disappeared, and I can confirm this by going into menu and seeing that my button is kind of blurred out. Now I cannot physically click on this button, so I cannot print this label. So now I know that I'm not printing. I'm printing I'm not printing the wrong label for the wrong customer, right? So my AgriLink label stays with my AgriLink customer, and it won't be printed anywhere else. So really, it allows me to prevent any mistakes when it comes to the printing of the label. And here, in my numbers of copy expression, is another way to dictate however many labels you want to print. So this could be a static number, so it could be 1, 5, 10, 100, or you can actually pull a specific quantity from the screen itself. So if, let's say you want to print however many you have shipped, right? So you just look for that data field via the tree selector, or if you already know it, you just type it onto here, and then that'll print however many, that'll print the quantity of however many that was shipped, right? So that'll pull the data directly. So that is pretty much it when it comes to the setup of the label. When it comes to the automation, it works the same way. It's a drop-down selector where you can select whatever is the trigger. So let's say it would be a status change. And I say confirm, right? So what this will do is that once I confirm my shipment, my label is going to be printed. So I just have to do that, and that essentially automates the process of printing my label. And if we want to look at the reprint, right? This is the reprint in the print log. So what this is that you can see the whole list of labels that were printed. We have a lot of filters here to work with, so that way I can really pinpoint the exact label that I want to reprint. So let's say I'm looking for this specific model of label that was printed on this specific printer. Let's say this one. And yeah, so then I have kind of a list of labels. I can even define kind of a date, so on what day it was printed or what time. And then let's say I found my my label record, right? Let's say it's this one. I just go here. I can click on render to see if this is the label I wanted to print or reprint. And I just click reprint, right? So that'll essentially reprint my label. That way I can see what it looks like or have it be used again, right? Now my format is a 4x4, so if I were to change this to 4x6, restart it again, that'll look a little bit better. But essentially, yeah, so you can reprint your labels to the same printer, or if you want to reprint to a different printer, right? Once again, with the selector, you choose whatever labels you want to, whatever printer you want to send your labels to. So yes, so that is essentially the kind of the workflow, right? But really, as an end user, what you will be working in most of the time is that particular screen, right? So whether you're in production move or you're in purchase receipt, really what you're focused on is just here, clicking on buttons. You don't really generally you don't have to worry about, how to build the label, how to map all the fields onto the label, or even setting up the rules, right? If once the label has been designed, all you have to do is just click a button, right? That is going to be most of your day-to-day processes. It's clicking the button and just printing your labels and just going and saving time on your workflow process, right? So yeah, so that is essentially it. When it comes to the whole Asgard labels workspace. And then we have, yeah, okay. So yeah, so some key differentiators just to conclude a bit. So yes, so Asgard labels comes with many features to fulfill all known labeling use cases. A key differentiator is really that we are fulfilled by Acumatica. Again, this means that Acumatica trusts us to handle all your labeling use cases. And we work closely with VARs to kind of help and make it as easy as possible for you guys to kind of get ready and using the labels. Usually, typically, you may wonder, what's the implementation timeline, right? Generally, on average, I would say it can be from 2 to 3 weeks, right? That is the implementation timeline. And, it always depends on what labels do you have, right? The harder the label it is to design, the longer it'll take. But generally, on average, is 2 to 3 weeks. And we work closely with the VARs to kind of get as much information from you. That way it can accelerate the process of kind of designing the labels and publishing that customizations onto your production site or sandbox. It is a all-in-one solution, right? Once again, we're built directly inside of Acumatica, so no external applications or integrations. We're using data from your system, so it's reliable and up to date, and you are able to design and print your labels directly from Acumatica, like you saw. And we have a dedicated customer support team, service team, that includes MVPs and certified developers. Yeah, so now to go a little bit on how the whole pricing, the billing works. So there are kind of 3 different tiers. There is the basic, so 1 to 2 printers. There's the professional, 3 to 5, and then enterprise 6 to 10. Now, these are all based off how many labels, how many printers you expect to use, right? So if you tell me that you're expecting to use 5 printers for your labels, then you would fall inside the professional. But no matter what tier that you choose in the license, they all include the following. So 8 predefined label models, integrations with multiple Acumatica screens, unlimited users, Acumatica upgrades and bug fixes. We are available in all Acumatica supported versions. And you also have access to documentation, wikis, and how-to videos. And then to go over kind of that who's going to design the labels, that is a support plan. So there are kind of 3 avenues we can go when it comes to designing the labels, like I mentioned. So Asgard Alliance could design the labels for you guys. Your VAR could design the labels, and you too can design the labels if you ever so desired to. But really, what we recommend at the beginning is typically that Asgard would be designing the labels, just to get in the process flow and get it get the implementation as quickly as possible. So we would maybe design 1 or 2, and then maybe later on the VAR can take over and start doing the rest of your labels, right? Yes, Matt, I can send you. When it comes to the pricing per tier. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should present that right now, or I can send over the pricing to Frank and he can send it over to you guys. Or if there's time, I can go over it a little bit later.
Lucas, I'm fine if you want to share the pricing tier. It's,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
that's
wasn't
fine.
sure, so that's why I hit it.
Yeah, no, you're good to go. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll just go over this and I'll show the whole pricing. But essentially, the way the support plan works is that there are 2 different tiers. So there's a standard, 10 points, and standard plus, 20 points. And what these points are, they are spendable points when it comes to building and designing your labels. So you can imagine that there are different types of labels. So there are very simple labels, so 1-point labels. There are a little bit more, which would be 3, and then the more complex, really difficult labels to build, it would cost 5. So with kind of however many points that you purchase, you can play around with whatever you want to have your labels designed. And then there's a third option, which is the light, which essentially offers kind of the light support is kind of just general support and maintenance, and is the training, right? So if you want to learn how to build a label, create a label, you would take the support, the light. But yes, to just give an example of the point system, the label 1 point is the breast griddle, so it has a simple text and 1D barcode. And then the 3 points is going to have maybe a logo, a text, an address, and a 1D barcode. And then if we go a little bit more complex, so the 5 points, that would have a logo, an image, address, multiple text, multiple barcodes, and a 2D industry specific barcode. So yes, also when it comes to colored labels, that costs an additional point. And multiple colored labels, so dynamic colors, so changing colors based on a particular condition or rule, that would be another 3 points. But yes, let me show the pricing before we wrap things up. Yes, okay. And then the support. No. So here is the pricing, right? So the 3 different tiers. So you have basic, which would be 2,500 for 1 to 2 printers. Oh my God. Just all right. Bear with me with a second. Okay, yeah, we'll just use this slide. Okay, so yes, the basic covers 1 to 2 printers for 2,500 per year or 200 per month. The professional, so 3 to 5 printers is $5,000 per year or 420 per month, and the 6 to 10 is 10,000 per year or 840 per month. But it doesn't have to be split into yearly or monthly. Essentially, because we are an FBA solution, what this also means is that when it comes to the purchasing of the license, everything is done through Acumatica, right? So the VAR will place the order on the price list, and that'll just be added onto your billing cycle, your Acumatica billing cycle, right? So whether you pay for your Acumatica yearly, monthly, quarterly, that's how you are going to pay for this license. So you don't have to sign anything with us. There's no contract. It's really just dealing with Acumatica when it comes to the pricing. So it makes it a lot easier for all of us. And this is the price for the support package. So the standard plus is 2,400 a year. Standard is 1,800 per year. But usually, it says per year, but you don't have to take it every year, right? Once you have your labels designed, that is the price that you'll pay, right? You don't have to pay again, so you have to. That way, you don't need to redesign the labels, right? Once the labels are designed inside of Asgard labels, you generally don't need to recreate them again. They're already there, right? So usually it's just a one-time thing, and the next year you can just go into light for very light support, so just support maintenance and bug fixes. So the light would just be like 720 per year. But yeah. So yes, so just to wrap things up, if you want more information, feel free to contact me. So Lucas Tran, also lt@asgardalliance.com, or feel free to contact Miguel as well. Sorry, his name is not on here.
Lucas,
Yes.
a question came in. What if you buy 20 points and don't use them all?
So essentially, the process would be you send us the labels, and we'll be evaluating how many points you would need, right? If you don't use them all, you can always keep them kind of like in the bank, and so you could spend them maybe at a later time if you want. But usually we try to be as accurate as possible when it comes to the pointage, right? So send over your labels. We'll evaluate however many points you need, and then we just work around that. But yes, so like I mentioned, we are FBA. So when it comes to placing the order, that's just the VAR that's going to place the license order on the medical price list. So it's going to be added onto your billing.
Yep. Lucas, one question
Yep.
came in on the Q&A that I missed. Sorry about that. Is Asgard compatible with Sato printers?
With what kind of printer? Sorry.
Sato, S-A-T-O.
SATO.
Yeah.
Oh, Sato.
Sato. Sorry.
I mean, like I said, send over, if you can send me over your exact printer model, I can always check whether or not they are ZPL compatible. But like I mentioned, if they are not ZPL compatible, so we can always just send a PDF to your printers. So there's always kind of ways around. It doesn't have to be kind of that Zebra printer. It's not limited to it. And I would say most modern printers support ZPL in some way or another, just because of how much market share Zebra has, right, when it comes to their programming language and their printers. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Oh, love it. Q&A time, guys. If you have them, put them in the chat. I see one coming in, Lucas.
Okay.
I do want to say it's been a pleasure to work with Lucas and Miguel. It's been great to kind of communicate with and get things done. And we here at Mayor Group feel that this product is huge, and we think it's a fantastic tool. Lucas, you see that question?
Yeah. So that's kind of so you don't have to assign a user to your printers, right? If you just leave this whole user field blank, it would just mean that everyone is able to print, right? It doesn't limit that particular person to a certain printer. You can just leave it blank, and now everyone can use that printer and can print from it. And also, Acumatica is unlimited user by default. That's kind of the beauty of Acumatica, is that you're not paying per user, you're kind of paying for the license to use Acumatica.
Cool. So I think we're kind of wrapping up here. We have a couple minutes spare until it's 2 o'clock. So we're kind of getting close to that hour. I do appreciate your time, Lucas. It was a great presentation. Anybody out there, if you have additional questions or comments, and if you don't want to reach out to Lucas at this point, you want to reach out to me, or if you want to reach out to the Mayor Group team, Dean's always available. We'd love to help you kind of get through some of these questions and whatnot. We'll get you pricing if you're looking to do that. So yeah, I appreciate you guys jumping on. But if there's no additional questions or comments, we're kind of good to go. So awesome. Thank you again, Lucas. Thank you, Miguel. Appreciate it. Yep. Have a good one, guys.
Okay, same to you.
Have a nice
Bye.
day.
Bye now.